What's up, guys? Really quickly before you start this podcast, I just wanted to say that it's been a labor of love and a long time coming. I tried to do one of these a couple months ago, and it didn't fully work out. I lost some of the audio files, but it's here. It's now. It's ready to go. And I just wanted to say we talked about so many fun things. We talked about the Israel and Hamas war. We talked about the 2024 election, obviously. We talked about Afghanistan, bin Laden, Ukraine. It was some really, really awesome stuff. So psyched that Joe and Shane could come on. Obviously, as you can tell right now, I was sick when we were doing it. I'm sicker now, even a day later when I'm recording this. But I'm so excited once again to do this, and I'm excited to share it with you guys and the world. And yeah, if you could just keep following me on Spotify and YouTube, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I think that's all for now. Enjoy the episode, guys. Peace. You should keep doing the that announcer voice. That would be. I could see you doing it.
So welcome back to the National Socialist Party podcast, hosted by your Herr Sontag. Hosted by Herr Sontag.
Oh my gosh.
Here on 102.
He's really on the mic.
Here 102.6. Der Reich.
Alright, Der Reich, let's go.
Oh, what's up?
Why is the audio only coming out of one here? Why you always give me the broken microphone?
I know. Unfortunately, all of them are like that.
Yes, this is 106.2 right? Today on the podcast.
Oh my god. Okay.
Jews, how you feel? How you feel about them? They have jobs. Why? Why do they have all the good jobs? Why is 18 out of 19 cabinet members got the dual citizenship with Israel? Why is that?
Alright, Bucky Jim, save your thoughts from Israel.
Nah, no anti-Semitic remarks. That'll get you cancelled. No
What do you think
anti-Semitic
of
remarks.
Netanyahu, the Prime Minister?
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah, no, don't,
the world
Joe,
will.
don't, no, not yet.
What do you mean no?
Because we want all your opinions once we start rolling.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Well, you know.
No. See, there's this thing called monetization.
We don't do that here.
The
We don't do that here.
The UK police will arrest me for what I say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with all that being said, guys, welcome to the Last House on the Left. This is where I chop it up with my friends, kill time, and speak what's on my mind. Joe's here, Shane's here. This is actually take 2, maybe even take 3, because we've had some. I've had some technical difficulties in the past, to say the least. So there's only going to be 3 of us here. Oh my God, what are you going to play on your phone?
I like this. Keep going, Ben. Keep with the introduction.
Okay.
Background.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do a podcast where, I don't know, just getting more into politics and how the world works and all this stuff. And I feel like, too, with social media telling us every single thing, what to think and who to vote for. And I'm just like, dude, I can't handle it anymore. So I also just think, too, you know, being 26, I'm kind of years behind getting, it's not the whole thing of getting into politics, but knowing actually what's happening in the world, and once again, how the world works, and how...
You're probably going to want to recut that intro, because Erica's the song that's going to get you canceled, even though it technically has nothing to do with they kind of co-opted the song.
Don't say that. No one would have known it had anything to do
What
with
do you know would know? It's literally it's the song. Come on. Even though it's like 200 years old and it has nothing to do with it's just,
so
funny,
bro.
So like I said, you might want to not put that in there.
Well, like I said, we'll roll the dice, see what happens.
I wouldn't. Just straight up wouldn't.
Man, so yeah,
That's coming from me.
Yeah. Well, let's do a toast actually real quick. Shout out to Buffalo Trace.
We're sponsored by them.
Oh, we are sponsored by them. Sorry guys, I misspoke. So
I thought we were
best
sponsored by Miller.
bourbon out there. You know, second to I don't know.
Piss from.
Well, I'm not. You're the bourbon guy. I'm not really the bourbon guy. I'll just.
Well, this is the first time it was in New Hampshire, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think.
All right,
We just look like posers because Joe Rogan drinks this, but whatever.
Cheers.
See, no one would have known.
Joe, toast me.
Also,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a quick thing. Joe has a little bit little bit of 7-Up to help him choke it down because
Says the guy with the
He
yellow
needs it.
piss one over there.
He needs it.
Yeah.
Drink whiskey like an
yeah.
American, Joe. That's how
Try to
it's
pace
all.
myself. You don't want these
Actually,
political views getting diluted by alcohol. Should be drinking it all, to be honest.
Alright, well,
Yeah, so
kick us off then.
Yeah, so kicking stuff off, man. Like I said, wanted to do this a while ago. Obviously, it's been a couple months since November 5th, and so yeah, man, Trump's gonna be he's the president-elect, and he's gonna be inaugurated on Monday, which is 3 days, right? Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
Alright, so to start from that, why don't you tell us what happened to the original version of this podcast that we recorded with 2 extra people about a month ago?
And it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
A lot of on-topic
well,
pieces.
was it really?
You guys will never know.
More
because of
opinions
this
and,
man sitting across from me.
Look, okay, there was a couple reasons why I was so nervous setting everything up because I ran out of work, and then I had to set everything up for the first time, which setting up all the headphone audio was just annoying and tough. I had Scott go to Guitar Center, buy $40 worth of all the splitters and other accessories.
Yeah, for nothing.
Didn't he F that up too?
Yep, and I showed him pictures of it too, which I'm not gonna blame you, Dan.
Scott, we love you.
It wasn't.
Get over here, you flaker. He was supposed to be here tonight, but he decided he had more important things to do.
Oh my goodness, Joe! I laughed so hard today when you said he was more flakier than a son.
He is. You hear me? You hear me, Scott? Come on, y'all! You can't tell your boss, "Hey, I gotta leave work early. I'm featuring on a world listen podcast."
Yeah, Dan, you're not gonna make money from your real job. You're gonna make money from this.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna regret the day that Ben's top 10 on the Spotify podcast wrap up.
You guys,
And you're like, oh man, I wish I was one of the guests. I wish I was on that podcast.
Yeah. So, anyways, recapping the whole night that we had a couple weeks ago and the first time we filmed it, there was a lot of good conversation that went around. I think personally, Shane accused me of this a little while ago, which, excuse me, was not true. But to be fair, when I did the podcast, like I said, I was stressed out, and then I'm like, oh, I got to get in a good mood, I got to start drinking or whatever. So it was really drunk. Yeah, it was bad, huh?
Well, I mean, it made for an entertaining podcast.
No, dude, I look like an idiot. So, and I was like, Kamala, do you know what's crazy? I had a lot of shots in a row, and for some reason it wasn't hitting me
He was
that
very
much.
attracted to Kamala. That was the problem.
First,
He was showing us pictures of Kamala in a bikini, and he's like, dude, you would, right?
oh my gosh, I hope my sister doesn't listen to this. We already said bikinis and homosexuals as a joke. Anyways, so basically everyone did a great job. Joe did a good job. Shane, Thibodeau, and even Scott. And the whole thing is that I wanted to have, some of us do have some different political opinions. Obviously, now that I look back on it, I wanted to originally come off as oh, I'm this center white guy. It's no, you're very conservative. You're just probably not.
Political labels are a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, fair enough, man.
Yeah.
So I think just with all of that being said, Shane's like, you just can't, you put it in the can because you didn't want it to go out. I was like, yeah, to a certain degree I didn't want it to go out, but that's not why I deleted the file. It wasn't intentional. I had storage problems.
Allegedly, it wasn't intentional. But no, keep going. I believe you.
Yeah.
Control C.
Yeah.
And then you make a second copy of the file that you were using. And that way when you upload it to SoundCloud.
Does this guy look tech savvy to you guys? I don't know.
I can edit a video without losing the audio part. I don't know about that.
It was syncing the audio and the video.
So do you still have the audio?
We have the video. He lost the audio.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you just as long as it's recorded at the same speed, you just sync up the...
Anywho.
He
So,
hasn't figured out now.
yeah, it's figured out.
He's
now,
going to lose
so-
this one. You're never going to hear this one.
No, we're gonna hear this one. If we don't hear this one, then you won't be hearing from me ever again. I'm going to be freaking moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
Or,
no one's going to hear
moving
it.
on from this
No one's
world.
going to hear about this.
So, anyways, jumping into. So yeah, I want to talk about a ton of stuff today. I wanted to talk about the election. There's also a lot of stuff. Like I said, the inauguration's coming up. Oh, we have. Yeah. It was so funny too, to call myself out. We were in the group chat, and I think 2 weeks ago I was like, guys, let's go to the inauguration in DC. And Joe's like, you gotta plan that out earlier, dude. You can't just.
Well, it worked out because it's indoors now, so.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the rotunda. Well, it's going to be 5 degrees out. It's just kind of funny because someone set up all the chairs.
Also, did you see the difference between Trump's photos for his first election?
Oh, let's not get into rally pictures. That's a whole.
It's funny though, dude.
It is,
He
but
looks,
it's like.
did you see that? He looks like he just got shot at in like.
Yeah, his mug, his portraits, yeah.
Which
yeah.
he did.
Yeah, what's
But when he got elected in 2020, he's like, he's smiling and all happy, and then this one he's like, I'm gonna make this country great again.
he's definitely got some vendettas to deal with.
So hey Shane, one thing that just popped up too. So I didn't realize. So my Google Docs, where all the links are,
lost that.
No.
Lost my only car. I was trying to sync it up.
So we're not going to be able to
files.
use. Oh, shut up, Joe. I'm not going to be able to use YouTube Premium because I have to go back into my Google Docs to pick out what.
Oh, no.
Just copy the link and post it.
But there's several though.
Just play the ads. We'll get sponsorship money from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever works.
Oh, excuse me. Jeez.
Yeah. So I guess once again, jumping in. So Trump is the new president. What a crazy election cycle it was, huh? There was like so much that happened, man. All the assassination attempts.
There was only one.
No, there was two. There were two. We had three. Yeah.
Sorry.
What was the third one again? There was a guy at the golf course that was stupid.
No,
and
Ben
the
was
guy that
right.
shot him.
I jumped in.
Whiskey's
I feel like there was a third one that didn't really go
No, it's
anywhere.
not.
Hey, how come the Wi-Fi here sucks?
Didn't I give you the Wi-Fi?
I know, this is no internet connection. I'll fix it.
Yeah, or just go whatever. So,
Wow.
yeah, I thought once again with so many different. I feel like this was one of the elections. You look at people like Elon Musk when he went on Rogan. He's like, "Vote like your life depends on it." This is the election where
Do that for every election, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like this one was a bit more to a degree. It just felt like, I feel like I said this in the deleted file that you'll never see, but like.
That was a good one.
Hey, we're gonna be going over a lot of things we've already talked about, so.
But I just think, I know this is cliche, but our country is the most divided it's been in at least our lifetime.
Totally.
As like young 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Mid 20-year-olds. And honestly, I don't know if that will change. I think it will get worse once he goes into office, but we'll see. Everything evens out at the end of the day.
Yeah. Thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, they always, every time there's an election, they frame it as the most important election. That's what you're supposed to do. I think it was definitely a big indicator of where people feel about the direction of the country. I think that, like, if you look at the election with... It's hard to think of an election that's happened in a while that really shows a rebuke of the way that the country's been going. I think his last election in 2016 was kind of that. Where you had, you had 8 years of Bush, and then you had 8 years of Obama, and then you had some guy show up from The Apprentice and become president.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't really know if that was a lot of factors contributed to that. I think Hillary Clinton was one of them. But
Absolutely.
But then he lost in 2020, and there's a lot of factors that went into that we could talk about all day long. I think,
I have some stuff.
And COVID was definitely a weird part of that. And then this time, you've had so much cultural pushing of certain ideas and agendas that most people don't. Even if they don't have a strong opinion about it one way or another, they're just tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And they're tired of being told what to think, and so I think that was a big part of the in a lot of ways, counterculture that Trump represents.
He does.
Do I think that it's such a trajectory-changing election? I think that's to be seen, because, I mean, you look at Trump's first administration, it wasn't that crazy. And the way that a lot of his opponents made him out to be as some dictatorial person, like the word been completely debased as an important word.
Yeah.
If you look at Trump's political positions, he'd be a moderate liberal from 30 years ago.
Right.
So it's not like he's this crazy radical person who wants to take over the country, as far as I'm aware. I mean, he's got 4 years. He's not going to run for another re-election, so he's basically already a lame duck president.
Yeah. And just think about this. Sorry to cut you off, but it's like, I think most of his appeal is that he's not a career politician. like you said, he's this guy from The Apprentice. He's a new look for the country, and he did some good things in his first term. I think people just want to see what he could have done if he was reelected in 2020. So he's the second president in U.S. history to be elected to non-consecutive terms. Grover Cleveland was the other guy.
Shout out Cleveland.
Shout out Grover Cleveland. He was a fat ass. But apparently he was a good Republican. I don't know. But
he was the last Republican for a long time.
Yeah, from Ohio. But I think Americans, going back to it, I just think a lot of them are fed up, like Joe said, with the trajectory of how the country was shaping to be. So
yeah,
he's just a new look, and I think it could pan out well if he does everything he says. And if you take a man for his word these days, especially in politics, it never happens. So,
yeah. Well, wasn't Trump's one of his big things running in 2016 is that he was like anti-establishment?
Well, yeah, but I think what politician doesn't want to label themselves as anti-establishment?
Yeah.
Part of Joe Biden's appeal was he was just some vanilla guy.
Well, Joe Biden is the typical career politician.
Well, but
he wasn't. I just researched this. He wasn't very well liked in the Senate.
No, he ran for president a bunch of
that.
times, and he was already exposed to be a liar in a lot of ways. But that was the old politics where things like that mattered. He was an anti-Trump kind of guy. He was this cliche white old guy who couldn't harm a fly and basically had moderate opinions for most people in the middle. Didn't really say anything that crazy. I mean, I think the worst thing about Joe Biden in terms of voter appeal was his son, and that's not really.
That was
it's not entirely his fault. I mean, if you're being honest, up until he pardoned him, you could say that Joe Biden had very little control over his kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that wasn't true, and they worked together in a lot of the corruption. But you could easily say that to most people, and they would.
Dude, it's so funny.
Agree with you.
Even some of these we talk about career politicians, so I think of these guys even Newsom or Pete Hegseth or like I said Hunter Biden. They all have the same haircut, the pulled back, slicked back hair, and it's you guys all look like freaking American Psycho. We'll get there. So hey, so let's get into key findings of the election. So where I'm getting this from is, did I say something wrong?
No, keep going. He said Keith. I laughed.
Oh, so this is it's so interesting because when it comes to
It's fine.
Yeah. So when it comes to whether you're Republican or Democrat, why people voted the way they did and what the main issues were for each party. So this is for so this is from Blueprint. Blueprint is a website I'm trying to think, bipartisan or nonpartisan website where
But the first one was right.
so I got it from Breaking Points. That's the YouTube channel. You've heard of Breaking Points, Crystal and Sagar and Jetty?
Nah, not really.
No. So they're like center left people. They're more they're definitely more
Trump
reasonable. No, they're more reasonable and so here's another thing too. Going into this election.
He's center left. I don't know what whatever.
Yeah. Well, really quickly, interrupting myself, I guess. Going back to Trump, there's a video. Have you seen it where Trump goes on The View in the early 2000s, and Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny, I forget her last name, and all those women are giving him hugs and doing the Hollywood thing, and now it's just oh, you're fascist, you're Nazi.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
Because they get paid to say
They get paid, dude.
They're all friends.
All the celebrities. Have you seen?
Did you see Obama and Trump?
Oh, should I pull that up?
I mean, okay, so I'm not saying that that it's all a show, right? That they know
Most of it is.
They know they're on camera. They got to sit next to each other. It's at a funeral of someone that they both respected, so it's not like they're going to be assholes to each other like Bush was to Trump. Bush didn't even acknowledge
Did you
him.
see that scowl that Kamala gave both of them?
Well, yeah, because Kamala, because
she has
no
to
one
be
likes
that way.
Kamala.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh,
You want to pull that up?
Yeah,
You make it full screen.
Yeah.
See, he's gone. He's like, he didn't realize how friendly. Like, they both know how to be on camera.
Yeah.
I think Barack Obama.
Is that Hillary right there?
Yeah. Michelle didn't show up.
Obama's a professional.
And Bill didn't
I
either.
like.
That's one thing where you have to respect.
I like
him.
Obama.
Well, he was very appealing. I think, to be honest, if you want to talk about radical policies, Obama had some of those radical policies out there.
Yeah.
Jeez, he's looking
For people
older.
people that don't know, Joe, could you? Give
I don't want to get into everything. I mean, because
Okay. Yeah.
so
Like what he
policies
says,
of a president are not always the president's official policy. Not official, but they're not driven by the president. A lot of the times, the policies under a president are driven by people who he just signs off on it. But I mean, the ramping up of the war in the Middle East was one of his biggest concerns. People criticize him all the time for the amount of drone strikes he committed. I know it's cliche, and
Right, 'cause
drone strikes
was
a joke now. But you kill innocent people overseas.
Yeah.
The whole Iraq, the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan should have been over after 5 years. Everyone can agree with that. And most people agree that the Iraq war should have never happened.
Yeah.
And the invasion of Afghanistan was a response to 9/11. 20 years later, we had nothing. I mean, that's one of Trump's biggest accomplishments was
The
putting
war
a
on
deadline.
terror.
Like, okay, so I'm going to go on a real, way off on a tangent
Cool.
here.
Bless me with some more buff.
But so one of the biggest criticisms of Biden that I think is unfair on Biden is not completely unfair, but his handling of the withdrawal of Afghanistan, right? But it wasn't his decision. So the withdrawal of Afghanistan was a deadline set by Trump that switched over administrations, right, in 2020.
Shane, check the camera, make sure it's good.
The handling of it, the specific handling of it, and the disaster of the security and the bombings and all the people that died, yeah, that's probably Biden's fault, but he's not in charge of military policy. It's the people he puts in charge.
Thanks.
Who is Secretary of Defense?
I don't remember.
Wait for.
It doesn't. But Joe's right. The cabinet decides and makes most of these.
But like, so Biden was rushed, if you're looking at it from a way up top view. He was rushed out of Afghanistan because Trump set the deadline. He could have changed the deadline, but he didn't. And
Do
they
you
just...
think he did that to make Biden look bad?
No, I think he expected to be reelected, and it was one of his big things to get people out of Afghanistan, but they needed time to withdraw the entire U.S. active army out of a country
They
that
don't leave
has one airport.
billions of dollars of equipment.
Well, yeah, and that was the biggest criticism, is that you spent 20 years and $5 trillion on a war in Afghanistan to kick the Taliban out and replace them with Taliban.
Yeah.
Joe, quick question: what does modern day Afghanistan look like? Because I haven't heard much. From
Well, so from what I've seen, and I haven't seen too many videos. I've only seen what people who go over there for like YouTube videos show you. But one, they've been at war for the last. I mean, honestly, they've been at war for the last 50 years. I mean,
Yeah,
before
Joe,
the U.S.
Joe,
this
invaded.
is a good depiction.
Oh, this was insane.
Holy cow.
And they don't, like, you have people hanging, this is the less graphic video. You have people hanging off these planes as they're taking off. Like, those people are not going to get off that plane when it takes off.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the biggest policy issue. That was a security guard issue that broke down. We had masks. You're not going to open fire on a big crowd. That's not the problem. The problem was that they let the Taliban use their own soldiers as security on the airport in Kabul. I think it's Kabul. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then you had a bombing. You had the radical parts of these terrorist groups that probably had connections within the Taliban that were already there, and they allowed a bombing that killed, I think it was 7 U.S. servicemen, and they supposedly knew about it. You know, this is what happens when you couldn't provide your own security for your own exfil. You know,
Yeah.
It was like Saigon. The fall of Saigon was a disaster.
I've never. It's like.
I'm not going to get into it because Vietnam
Okay.
was 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
because it was
But-
all of Obama's.
But it was the same thing. You pull out of these wars that you shouldn't have been in the first place. They didn't really go your way. And you end up having a lot of civilians dead. It looks bad on the news because when you're leaving, you're just leaving and saying... But Afghanistan was one of those things that Obama was like... He had 8 years. It was part of his campaign promises to end the wars in the Middle East. He never did. Both times it was part of his campaign promises. He could have left. But there was a lot of political reasons why you didn't. And...
Yeah.
Back to what I was saying, he had a lot of, it's a Fast and Furious thing where they were like, okay, well, we're going to find out where these guns are going. We're going to allow the cartel to come up to New Mexico and Texas and buy guns. We're not going to stop them.
Yeah.
And then when crimes are committed, we're going to track the serial numbers on them. That was, even on paper, that's a stupid idea.
Okay.
In reality, they never found, they let hundreds and thousands of guns that the cartel just came up here and bought.
Yeah.
And then they never connected any of them to any of the murders the cartels committed. That was another thing. And then you had the Obamacare with the nationalization of healthcare. That's a whole other topic. And then the slow job recovery and his economic policies that led to stagnation. I'm
Yeah.
not an economic person, and I wasn't really prepared to talk about Obama's administration.
That's fine. Like
No,
I said,
but Joe,
we're going to run it back.
But
Can
back
I
to what
add
he
one
said,
thing?
he was a hell of a public speaker. He was very charismatic.
Yeah.
Obama.
And him and Trump understood that. And that's probably why they're very popular, is him and Trump are both very charismatic. And so on camera, they may hate each other, but they're going to look like they're getting along together. And that was a way roundabout way of saying that.
No, but you brought up a bunch of good stuff, Joe. And quickly, just going back to Afghanistan, one of the things that stuck out to me the most is like they were sending in private groups of like ex-special forces guys, like Green Berets and Navy SEALs to come exfil people.
yeah.
Like it wasn't even our effing government, dude.
Yeah.
Like it was private groups. That's how bad it was.
Right,
That's how
'cause-
sloppily it was done. And they never answered for it. And like I don't think if Biden said anything on it, he didn't say much. And it was one of the sloppiest jobs you could do to get out of a terror-ridden country.
I think if we're being honest, most of Biden's policies were not really his policies. Yeah, like,
Well, I was going to, yeah.
But he has to be the front man to take.
that's exactly why he's there. He's someone who you can't really blame because he doesn't really. I'm not saying he's completely demented, but there are times when I don't think that people keep him in the loop. I think you have a Woodrow Wilson situation
Yeah.
where he's not in the
Woodrow
public
Wilson's
eye,
wife was running
and you
the
have
country.
someone else who's getting his approval on things that you need approval for. But everything else, they're just running through his administration in his name that aren't really his policies. And if he talks about them, it's just because he's been told by people he trusts that these are policies that he should support.
Yeah.
Whew. That was awesome. That was a great little sidebar there. So we're going to go back to kind of the beginning parts of the election. And like I said, there's other stuff I want to talk about besides just the election. So yeah, going back to, I was originally brought up Blueprint. So basically a very like politically unbiased site. And so for the Democrats, right? Once again, I know this is a little bit of a pivot, but
That's fine.
oh, Joe just left. Okay, so man, he just dropped a sentence or dropped a speech and just dipped. So yeah, but so a lot of Democratic issues for voting goes as follows. So their biggest reason for voting Democrat was inflation at 46%, followed by immigration 24%, democracy 17%, abortion 17%, and healthcare 16%.
Yeah.
I think to me personally, I think that's very interesting because the way that the media posed it from my perspective is that abortion was like the biggest one.
Yeah. You're gonna see like no matter the political party, the weight of the issue, depending on the year, it's gonna be pretty much the same. But immigration was a big push by the Republicans, so that makes sense. But at the same time, I don't understand fully what the Democrats stood for as far as immigration. That could just be my own ignorance, but and I agree. I think for them, abortion would be higher because that ties into a lot of other things, right? That ties into women's rights in general. That ties into even if you wanted to go down like the rabbit hole of like, I don't want to say like. Actually, no. We'll keep it at that. It just ties into women's rights and other things because that's what they believe in, and a lot of them are pro-choice. But
Yeah.
I would expect that to be higher.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that was some good commentary. So here would be the Republican issues for voting. This is from the actual website. So, so here we go. I think. So where is it?
I think it was up. Where was that?
I'm trying to. I think that's just
Inflation, health.
of among young voters.
Young. Oh, you're looking for.
Yeah, so I'm trying to what it was for Republicans. Well, anyways,
We can focus on the top, the young voters, because I do think.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
That's a good place to start.
the Republicans did garner this like big young following, I think, as opposed to
Absolutely.
like even just like the stereotypical like young guys like waving like American flags, we're like Trump. I know that's not like how we want our voters to look, but like he did like what's the word I'm thinking of? Not galvanized, because that means like violence, but like he
Incentivized.
He incentivized like the people to start caring about politics. And you even said this at the beginning, you're like, yeah, I'm 26 and this is like the first time I actually cared. So I think he did a good job of like getting people interested in. So what were the top?
Yeah, I really wanted to. I'm just gonna look it up real quick. So top issues for Republican. So this is from.
Yeah, that looked like one.
This one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, economy.
Let's
So
see.
I wanted to ask you, like,
Yeah, Republican voters rated economy, immigration, and then important.
so
issues.
I wanted to ask you, like, what do you? I guess in like when you're like going through the outcomes of an election, how much do you like factor in the economy and like how much things will cost into your decision?
Good question, man. I think economy. I think Scott said the same thing. Economy is where I would be the most uneducated on. I mean, obviously, you look at the typical things that it's so interesting because I feel like both sides would take would kind of like point the finger the other way, but you could hear Obama or not Obama, Kamala. I'm sorry, it's that ending in that A word that got me. So Kamala and Trump that are both like, oh, if you go to the grocery store, eggs are I can't afford to buy eggs. I can't afford to buy bread. Gas prices are high. All this stuff. What was the Kamala had a plan to like give out was it a $40,000 or $50,000 like as a I don't know why I want to say the word stipend, but it's like for young homeowners.
Okay.
And so that's like really all that I knew on it. So that's when I remember I was talking to my sister and her girlfriend, and they were like, tell us about like your thoughts on the economy. And it was like, like you got me. So for that specific issue, I was very much, not as well learned in that area. So I guess this could be a point, unless you wanted to add to that. Whenever Joe gets back, like I said, I don't know where he is. I assume he's just
No, but
pissing.
it's like it can be hard to tell, like as like the average American consumer, right? So you look at like gas, you look at groceries, but like not a lot of people pay full attention to that, right?
Right. Well, one other quick thing too is that it wasn't Biden. A lot of times he said he's like, he was blaming Trump because he used to be like, "Oh, your economy was terrible when you were a president," and then he was like, "Wasn't it because of COVID?"
Yeah. Tell me this: what world leader is going to handle a pandemic like that correctly?
Yeah.
No one. Absolutely no one. And I mean, I don't want to fully be like, he did the right thing, but there's a lot of other factors into that, like the government relying on the CDC, to get correct medical advice. So that issue is like one. It's like that happened in 2020, right? It's 2025. We'll never get like a resounding conclusion from that.
Yeah.
And we lived through history. Like even thinking back about it, it's like one of those diseases that's like not obviously like things like the bubonic plague, but it's like one of those things where it's like we lived through it and Joe's back and I don't like him and a word I'm thinking of. Don't mess up the camera.
Yeah. Joe, is the camera still good?
I didn't touch it.
No, just make sure
I
it's still
didn't touch it.
It's still recording.
Yeah, it makes Shane
I
look
didn't
like
touch
a.
it. What are you, Bill Clinton?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Makes
that
Shane
was
look a
funny,
little fruity, but
So, anyways,
Fruity Loops went very through.
So here's some stats too from NBC about voting like right or left. So 43% of men voted liberal, 55% voted Republican, and then for women 53% voted liberal and 45% voted Republican. So one thing I thought that was really interesting was when it came to that's what I was going to say.
What was it? What do you think it was before?
The trends are crazy. The trends for Republicans have been going up. It used to be like you get 2%.
Yeah, look at this too, man. Like the black vote, like 86% voted Democrat and 13% voted.
Wait. How much of that was because Kamala is black?
Yeah, that was interesting.
It's a
black,
long-standing
she's
Democrat thing. It's very cultural, long-standing support of the Democrats.
Did you guys see the video too where Obama's at like a convention and he's actually like scolding like black men? He's like, if you don't vote for Kamala, like you are like not a black man in America. Like
If you don't vote for Kamala?
yeah,
If you don't vote for
I'm
me,
gonna
Jack,
pull it
you
up.
ain't black.
it's something.
That's from the 2020 election. That didn't seem to hurt him.
Obama.
Oh, you could bring up the Biden one where he says that. Rights Act.
Vetoed the Civil Rights Act. Is that Andrew Johnson?
Filibustered the Civil Rights Act. No. We could go into historical note.
Andrew Johnson.
That conversation.
Andrew Johnson's the worst president ever.
That conversation will eventually come to the party flip
Yeah.
discussion. But the Democrats in 1964 voted. Every single one of them voted against the Civil Rights Act.
Was that Lyndon B. Johnson?
That was Lyndon B. Johnson. The only reason that he didn't veto it is I actually don't know.
So
He did a lot for
You
civil rights.
can I steal that? If we're doing statistics and stuff.
No, don't steal it. Go
if you want to come
Let's
look at
turn
it,
it around. No, I got.
No, because it was up. Excuse me.
Is it
Yeah.
plugged in on both? It's plugged in on both sides.
yeah. What would you like to?
No, no. Yeah, do you want to go into that stuff, Joe? With
Well, we were there. I just this one thing I always like. I like to
Yeah,
point
sure.
out from this one.
Go for it. Let me.
just switch seats for now.
You don't have an extra keyboard, do you?
No, I don't.
Future note, that would be something cool to have if you had an extra.
Just guys, just swap for a second, and then you can swap back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
sure.
can share.
Look up.
This is a map. The arrows are a little bit confusing, so I could zoom in if you'd like.
Okay.
So you see the arrows, the direction that they're pointing represent the shift in voters over 2020.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So you like say here, there are blue parts. You have parts of Virginia, but like say up here, I'm gonna go to this portion of Wisconsin. There was a 1.8 point is just percentage, right? So we're talking about these numbers over here. These are points.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do it. It just makes the conversation easier. 1.8 point shift in voters from over 2020. Trump still won the county, so that's a whole other thing. But if we come out to here, that's the country as a whole.
Wow.
So you can see
This is a great chart, Joe. Thanks for pulling this up.
California, for instance. A
Yeah,
lot of
a lot
people
of the
consider
counties, right?
California
Yeah.
the liberal bastion of the U.S., and in a lot of ways they're true, but that's always in the big cities. Oh, it's yours. Sorry. Hey, you don't realize, privilege.
That's fine too.
Up yours. Surprised they don't have one for Alaska. That's kind of interesting. We must not have. But you can see that in every place in the country, outside of a few places in the west and a couple in northwestern, that's a big one, 9.2 in Henry County,
Georgia.
Atlanta.
Well, Georgia's battleground
Georgia.
state, right?
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
still went. I mean, you're still looking at a massive win for Hawaii, for instance, right? Let's take a look at this part of Hawaii. That's a 9.5 point shift in Maui County on the island of Maui, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fires over there and the perceived slights of the.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. Because LA's getting all this funding when they did the fires. Maui was set on fire how many years ago?
That
And they
was
still haven't
last
got
year.
compensation.
That was just last
That's
year.
yeah, that's a big thing.
But then why are we sending all this freaking money to Ukraine?
Let's
another
save that
thing.
for
Let's save that for later.
That's another topic, and that is a bit
I
more
have some stuff
complicated.
Because
Right.
people,
It's a bit more
foreign countries are
complicated than
more-
Republicans
yeah.
are making it, because we're not just sending blank checks necessarily. We're sending value. In a lot of ways, we're sending value of equipment that they're supposed to pay us for. See, the European Union is the one sending just money and some military aid. We're the ones sending a lot of hardware, and that's not the case for everything. We are sending money, but those bills where they say we're sending $1 billion to Ukraine, we're sending $800 million worth of military equipment that we don't use anymore to Ukraine that they're supposed to reimburse us for, just like the UK was supposed to pay us back for reparations. Real quick tangent.
Yeah.
We lent a lot of money to the Allies in World War II, Britain, France, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Britain, for instance, we lended them an astronomical amount of money. It's kind of why their country collapsed after the war. They didn't finish paying that back until like 2012, 2013, right? Because we were like, well, you can't afford it. We'll just make the installation payments really long. And by the time you pay it off, the money won't be worth as much as it was back when you owed us that. So Ukraine's in a similar situation where they technically owe us money for this stuff.
Yeah.
They're never going to pay it back because, but anyways, it's not just we're sending them blank checks that they spend the money on. The European Union's doing that. They're just sending them money that the European Union, that they had to turn around and pay us part of it. But that whole war is very complicated, and it's not everything. Is that? Anyways, back to this.
Yeah.
So, like, and especially parts of New Jersey, Richmond County, Essex County, parts of New York and New Jersey, you had these, especially New Jersey. A lot of people don't talk about how Trump spent a lot of time campaigning in New Jersey, and yeah, he didn't win the state, but like, look at that. That's a 22-point shift.
Yeah.
That's unheard of, right?
From nothing. He had 2% of the vote in the Bronx.
Oh my
God.
And he went from 2% to 27% in 4 years, just based on.
Jeez. So here's the biggest question, guys. Like, why do you think such a jump to Trump, like in all these crazy areas? Like, what was the reasons for that?
Dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party.
So
how they're handling things.
So
that's the broad answer, right?
Joe, are you still want to look more stuff?
No, I can pull up more maps.
But Joe, part of this, and I love this depiction, but part of this is deceiving because Kamala won all of New England, for example, and you see all those red arrows, which I don't doubt he had more points than in 2020, but I just think like part of this is deceiving based on county population size and stuff like that.
So, real quick to just address that, I understand what you're saying. That's a symptom of the Electoral College, where and that's part of the design of the Electoral College, is to make close elections look less close than they are, to allow a larger support after the fact of the candidate who won. But a lot of people, first of all, are talking about switching from the Electoral College to the popular vote. And if it was the popular vote, this map would become very relevant all of a sudden. I think what it shows is that, another quick tangent, there's a lot of people who don't vote. Because either they don't care, or there's a lot of people who used to vote when they were younger or when politics was less divisive than it was, and now they say, well, my vote doesn't count, or why would I vote, I'm in protest, and blah, 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 blah.
So another quick thing about the blueprint stats really quickly as well. I think it said 31% voted Democrat. Let's see, and then 33% conservative and 36 moderate.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, moderates were at 31 or 36%. I remember.
But it shows that, like, say you were to go to a popular vote, or just this is a
but
better.
Didn't Hillary win the popular vote?
That's
what I'm saying.
In 2020.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But Trump won the Electoral College because of the way it's designed, and I'm not arguing for the changing of that system. I like that system. I think that system represents the New Jersey Compromise very well. If you don't know what that is, Google it.
Shut up.
But like, you look at states that you would typically expect, because a lot of the discussion going into the election is not about what, there's the swing states, but they talk about
which Trump's
going to win Iowa. These polls show that Iowa's really close, whereas Iowa just got further and further away from him. Dakota County, in a state where he's already winning the majority, where he's already going to win the state. Like in New Hampshire, right? He lost our county by
that's awesome. The mic's picking up
6%.
By 3 points.
This time he only loses it by 3 points because he gained 5 points of protect, and that shows that if this massive shift of populace, not just states, inside a populace, that we're tired of the way that things were. And going back to your question of why that is, I think it's important to look at during the 2016 administration of Trump. Right, he was new. A lot of people were still in support of the traditional Democratic ideals that Obama represented, blah, 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 blah. They didn't like Hillary, so maybe they didn't vote for Hillary, or maybe they just voted for Gary Johnson like Dan Scott did. The media spent their entire time lambasting Trump over his 2016 thing, right? So the only thing that people who voted in 2020 saw were the last 4 years, and this is why being an incumbent in a bad administration is not a good thing, even if you're a good president. Shane can attest to that. Where like if you're an incumbent and there's a recession or a depression that's out of your control,
You look bad.
you look bad. Even though it may be part of your control, you can't control everything as the president. They always say, "Oh, the president doesn't control gas prices." It's true and it isn't true.
Right.
But like, say gas went to $10 a gallon because someone blew up an oil rig somewhere. Well, that's not really the president's fault directly,
Right.
but that makes him look bad.
That goes back to the front man.
And so that's and so then in 2020, everyone looked at Trump, and that's all the example they had. They didn't have, Joe Biden's this new face. So 2016 was unique because you had two new candidates, whereas McCain lost to Obama because Obama was an incumbent and actually kind of
That's the thing. Like incumbents, re-election, to get re-election as a president in America, you have to be like almost stellar. And like we've had a lot of stellar presidents, but we've had a lot of shitty presidents too.
Well, you have to have appeal, and that appeal doesn't have to be intelligent or like a real political reason. Like Bush won re-election because we were in a war, 9/11, and he showed strength. The whole
War on terror.
War on terror, and so they're not going to, and then we're not going to elect John Kerry.
He's been going down in popularity, by the way, over the years.
Yeah, and then you had Obama, and then Obama got reelected in 2012 because the recession was over, and people granted Obama a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
The whole Wall Street thing, and so they didn't want to vote for John McCain. They didn't like John McCain. A lot of Republicans didn't like John McCain, so they voted third. So Obama won again. So in 2016, you had two new candidates that had no history as president: Donald Trump, which was really funny to begin with, and Hillary Clinton, who nobody likes Hillary Clinton.
And Kanye.
I was just about to say that.
But
How
then
could you
but
forget
then in
about
2020,
Kanye?
you've got this.
Kanye's a stable person.
I might be his meds.
Jeez.
But
Are you good, Joe?
so yeah, so the media lambasted Trump. I think COVID was a really bad look on Trump too.
I said that probably when you were in the bathroom. Yeah.
But so then that's part of the reason why Biden won. And then in 2024, you have a little bit different because the media still spent most of the last 4 years lambasting Trump over things that he wasn't president anymore. And I think it may not have affected everyone on this list, but I think a big part of people on this list who look at the last 4 years is like, well, Trump's not in charge anymore. So why are we still talking about him? Why are the things that Joe Biden does not criticized as heavily as Trump was?
Well, I just don't like how, like, once again, Shane, you were talking about the economy when Joe was out of here. And people are saying, oh, the economy's bad and all this stuff, and we need to, like, improve this, and it's because of, Kamala was saying, it's because of Donald Trump or whatever. It's like, dude, what have you been doing for the last 3 years, man? Like, you're like, oh, you're the vice president. I don't have, like, I'm not the president. It's like, I don't know. I see some inconsistencies there. You know.
I'm gonna slip out real quick. You guys continue.
Sure.
Changed 2020. That's that same map, but in a different color. And so you don't have reporting data from all precincts yet, which is fair enough, I suppose, in some places.
Yeah.
I'm sure they stopped updating this a while ago. This is your county breakdown of, you look at states, right? You look at the state like New York, and you see that it goes blue. And it only really goes blue because, and I'm sure most people understand this already, the Electoral College takes the popular vote of the state and then gives all the votes of that state, for the most part, with a few exceptions, to that person. So, Kamala Harris gets, 600,000 votes
Wow.
in these counties and these precincts. Yeah. And up here, Trump wins this county real big, but he only gets 30,000 votes.
Right.
And so a state can go like that. California, for instance, we don't have a lot of information for California. But Washington, you can see how the counties split up. A state like us, I think, going on a real tangent, how New Hampshire, people call New Hampshire purple. It really is. And the margins in New Hampshire have always been minuscule. I mean, you have 3 points here. Rockingham County went for Trump. Hillsborough went for Kamala by 2.5. And you got Merrimack County at 5. But you go up here, he's up by 14 points, 20 points in Grafton, 10 to 1.7 for Trump and Carroll. And so New Hampshire as a state is almost deadlocked because that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
I love New Hampshire because politically people actually kind of pay attention. But I mean, Trump winning the most populous county in New Hampshire by less than 6,000 votes. That's a pretty small margin. Whereas like a state like Massachusetts, he wins Boston by 52 points.
Yeah.
Like, so of course, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Smells good.
Cool, man.
I'm just kind of pointing out here. I don't have
No, that's good stuff.
Smells
It does. Don't you love that candle, man?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I like that map, that arrow map.
No, that was sick, dude.
Because like you could lose the popular vote and still win the election, but it shows that that's why he won the popular vote.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the biggest surprises from the election was that before the election, if you were to say, well, Trump won the election, and you'd ask people, did he win the popular vote? They'd say no. Even
Yeah.
his supporters would say probably not.
Well, that's
The
a
fact that
pretty
he
known
won-
thing for
the fact that he-
conservatives,
yeah.
right? Conservatives usually don't win the popular vote.
That's a bit of a misconception. Mostly because you have two odd examples in the last 20. Because there's only a presidential election.
You can't
every
go
4
by
years.
much because elections, from the beginning of our country, elections was 13 states. So it's like, you
Okay.
can't really.
All right.
And we didn't have Republicans till Abraham Lincoln too, so that's another thing. You can't say we had a bunch of different things. We had the Whig Party, we had the
I'd be a
Demo-
Whig.
Democratic Republicans. You would be a Whig, Joe.
I know.
They were all racist slave owners.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But
One other thing too, Joe,
Let's
about
go Whigs.
Trump too. So here are all the stats too. So he got 77 million votes in 2024.
wow.
Obama got 69 million in 2008. 65 million in 2012. Hillary had 65 million in
In 2020?
uh,
That's not right because she won the popular vote in 2020, and Trump lost it.
No, that was 2016.
2016. Okay, yeah, right.
and then
So that 2020 Trump thing.
Trump had 74 million.
Can you
and lost.
quickly pull up how many votes Biden had in 2020? Because I think that's an interesting talking point. That you can either go conspiracy or just traditional explanation. That Biden had 81 million votes, which obviously
most
is the most
votes
votes
ever
ever cast, right? Go to his 2024. Look up 2024. How many votes did Kamala Harris have? You might have
Yeah,
already
this
put
is
that up there.
this is a big talking
So
point.
we're
'cause
talking about 81 million votes
this
to
election,
77. So Trump only had 77. Yeah, right there. That's CNN article. I like charts. Thank you, false news. You have to admit when the news is news. Keep going. Go. Here we go.
70.
Perfect. Right here. So yeah, Biden had 81 million votes in 2020. And that might probably do because a lot of people absentee voted because they were stuck at home and it was COVID. Blah blah. Trump had 74 million. 200. So he would have lost to Kamala in the popular vote, but he probably still would have won the. I think by the states, I'd actually love to see a comparison. If you took Kamala's votes and put them on the 2020 election versus if you put 2020 Trump up against 2024 Kamala in the Electoral College, I'd love to see how that would have gone. Anyways, but where did 7.5 million votes go?
Yeah, that's
Because Trump got 2 million more, so yeah, 2 million went from him to her, but total 74 plus 76 is 146.
Well, I know it doesn't work that way, but like that election was the biggest conspiracy of voter fraud, and
Well,
that's
it's been
actually
worse.
that's a thing that Ben actually doesn't like about Trump. You were vocal about this, right, where he denied the election.
So I am to be completely honest, I am not a Trump supporter. I thought, like I said, when we did the first podcast, that I was going to be like, I'm going to be the center right dude and whatever. And, I'm still like very, very conservative, so I was lying to myself. But yeah, there's just a couple things about Trump, man. Like, as a strong Christian, I don't think personally he. I just don't like how he didn't concede the 2024, the 2020 election, rather, excuse me. And some of the rhetoric when it comes to just like the way he talks about things, I just don't understand it, whatever. It's confusing. But, so maybe this would be a great place to segue. So, you could all get into reasons. So we all actually voted for, Trump here. So I was honestly thinking about not voting. Nice. I was thinking about not voting for a long time, but then like really thinking and sitting on it, it's like, that's just the stupidest, most ignorant thing in my opinion.
There's never been, in my mind, there's never been a reason not to vote, right? So even if you believe that your vote doesn't count, Okay, so say you truly believe that a system was completely rigged, right? That none of the votes actually counted, that they just made up the vote numbers at the end of it. Well, what difference does it make? Go vote, because then they'll have more votes that they have to make disappear.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to still get through for the election.
Love
we
you,
got to
bro.
move over to other.
Oh,
things.
I have something.
Yep, go ahead.
No, I was.
Or yeah, Joe.
Yeah. So even if you believe that the election was completely rigged, you might as well just make it harder for them to get rid of your votes. Second, if you believe that your vote's not going to make a difference, right? It doesn't matter. Go vote for a third-party candidate, because the classic argument is, well, everyone who says their vote doesn't count, well, those people, if they all voted, their vote would probably count. Like, I respect Dan a lot for voting for Gary Johnson. He knew in his heart that the
Did
vote.
he actually vote for Gary?
I think so. Yeah, that was.
I
his
thought he
20
voted for Stein.
He voted for a third-party candidate.
I think it was
I
Joe
think it's more. I think it was
Joe
Gary
used to be
Johnson. I like
secretive.
Gary Johnson.
Joe used to be secret about who he voted
Yeah,
for.
he used to.
I voted for Trump every time.
I voted
And
for
it's funny
Ben
because in
Carson.
2016 I was a big Ben Carson guy. Mostly
Did you
because,
meet him when he went to Gates?
No, not only in Gate City. I went. Ben, if you're ever listening, Mr. Carson, you were supposed to come to a rally in Nashua at a diner. I got interviewed by the paper that's out there. You can find that. I'm not gonna say what paper, but I was interviewed by a paper. You didn't show up. Your bus showed up, but you weren't on it. What the hell? That's what lost you the election, in my opinion.
Joe, isn't he a neurosurgeon? That guy's too smart for you.
Oh,
Get
no,
out of
he
here.
he was way too meek to be a politician. Real quick, Trump, a big thing I respect him for in retrospect. Ben Carson at one of the debates, they introduced, I'm sure people have seen this, they've introduced all the candidates and they come out to their podium. Ben Carson's like the third person out the door. They introduced the guy behind Ben Carson. So they never introduced Ben Carson for this debate, one of the Republican debates. Trump was the second to last, or third to last guy. They introduced Trump. Trump doesn't come on stage because they haven't introduced Ben Carson, even though they lined him up ahead of all these people that they already introduced. He stayed until the end of the introductions, and then the host for the ABC, I think it was ABC at the time, like, oh, and Ben Carson, and then him and Trump both came out. And I think that him and Carson, even though they don't talk about it because Carson hates the media, and why would he talk about things that he doesn't have to? Why would he seek attention?
Yeah.
He was the HUD secretary for Trump, and I believe he'll probably have a cabinet position in this administration too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He's a very respectable guy. Outside of his
smart
politics,
guy.
he
Very
was the
smart
first
guy.
person to ever be able to separate Siamese twins. If you want a little fun
Yeah.
fact
I
about
did
Ben
know that
Carson.
story.
Yeah,
actually.
neurosurgeon.
My parents.
It's John
were fans
Hopkins.
of
Shout out to John Hopkins in Baltimore, the best
John
thing about
Hopkins.
Baltimore.
Yes, very good hospital.
Were you going to say something in adding to that? I can't remember.
They were attached at the head. That was the big thing. It wasn't the first
Yeah.
person to ever separate Siamese twins. It was to separate their heads.
Jeez.
He went off on so many things. What were we talking about?
We were talking about why everyone voted for Trump. So.
Orange man, good.
So I actually said I didn't vote for it.
Well,
I didn't give my reason.
This goes back to the first thing I said at the beginning of the podcast was he represents what our country hasn't been for the past whatever years.
Great point. Yeah.
Being career politicians and like saying whatever they want without any discretion or any responsibility for their words. And also the media, you just can't rely on these days. And even though there's outlets that are far right and Fox News.
What do you think about Fox News, honestly, guys?
Television news is a dying product. In 10 years, there won't be any.
The boomers listen to it.
Like MSNBC
So
was
you're a
already.
boomer,
the-
at heart.
Elon Musk has already talked about, and I don't think he will. But it would be the funniest thing I've ever heard of. Buying MSNBC because their annual viewership. I think I don't know where it is. And I'm sure you could find this out. The daily viewership of all the news networks is less than some podcasts, as far as I think. I'm not sure, but I think I've heard that Joe Rogan gets more attention than at least all of the left-leaning Democrat, because Fox gets all the Republicans, so it's kind of unfair. That they're the
That's
biggest
why
news
Trump
network.
called out when Joe Rogan officially supported him. Trump made like a big scene of it because it's very important, and that's where Barron Trump comes in because Barron's
Barron
he
was the guy.
understands these things.
He's the guy that got everyone.
Barron's on the Paul Atreides arc, if anyone cares about that.
Well, I mean, forever ago, where did he start? He started on probably like Nelk or Steiny's thing. Then he went on
But he's
Theo,
doing it right,
then
dude,
Flagrant. Oh, absolutely. So
because he's not doing these staged interviews.
So
Yeah.
great.
Like The View. Who watches The View? Besides,
Honestly, no, that is.
and the funny thing is, a lot of the even the numbers that they do post are just like waiting rooms in hospitals. Anyways, so yeah, the funny joke was that Elon Musk was going to buy MSNBC and then put Alex Jones on the headliner of the news network. I think that would have been the funniest fucking thing ever.
Isn't Alex Jones the guy that's like, Sandy Hook didn't happen?
Yeah, so Alex
bro.
Jones
He had to
says
be
some
$1
things that are
billion
right. He says some things that are insane. And yeah, let's not bring up Alex Jones here because that is a podcast in and of itself.
Oh, he's losing all his stuff now.
Well,
Did
he
you
got.
hear about that?
Like,
this
let's
time
not
was
talk
legit,
about it
though.
because I think that there are things
Yeah.
about Alex Jones that I understand.
Oh, we have some.
There are things
yeah.
that I think about Alex Jones that make him crazy, and I think that he's both. I think he's sane and crazy most of the time. He's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Yes,
I mean,
but
I'm not
also
saying he's
like
that,
okay. So the real quick thing.
No,
like,
no, no,
what
no Alex Jones.
He was right about Bohemian Grove.
He was wrong about Sandy Hook, but why? The biggest lawsuit they made him pay $1 billion. Really? How do they justify that?
I don't know where they
For
get
something
that
he said. I thought we had free speech. Like he can say, the KKK is one of the most deplorable organizations in the history of the United States.
Which Trump is
But
not
it's not illegal.
part of.
But it's not illegal to be
So
a
tired.
KKK member. So it's illegal to say something stupid like a school shooting was staged. Like, of course it wasn't. But
Oh,
he's
geez, Shane.
he's fine
No,
for saying
no,
that.
Joe, no. Because if you look into the details of that school shooting,
Is
oh, sorry.
does that
But,
qualify as defamation?
Oh God.
Does that qualify
Yeah,
as
yeah.
defamation under the law?
that-
I could be wrong. I think it's interesting that they go after him for like just ignore him. It's the
But it's a really bad...
the Barbra Streisand effect. If you ignore him, he doesn't become as popular.
Yeah.
No, but let's just end on this. Like, it was a really bad thing to say.
Yeah. Well,
So it got him ratings. So what does he care?
So going back to this, you talked about like podcasts, right? So obviously the Rogan bump was something so interesting, and a lot of
It was a big deal because Rogan wasn't going to endorse him, and then like the week before the election,
yeah, because Joe reaches out to both of them, and
kind of
like,
big,
Trump.
like Hillary's.
This is where I feel like the
No,
Kamala's like campaign like fumbled it, man. Where it's just like, dude, like you should go and talk to Joe Rogan's. Like, is he really gonna like push you? Like, dude, he just had like out of the last 25 podcasts he had Mark Zuckerberg on, Peter Thiel, and what was the other guy, Mark Andreessen. These are like big tech or pharma guys, and it's like, dude, he's gonna want to know like the personality of Kamala and Trump. And yeah, I think he did push back Trump on, was it the economy?
Yeah.
I think he said one thing too about, he asked Trump about the votes in 2020, and Trump's like, oh, he didn't really give like a good answer. I was like, huh. But so it's so funny because like, do you think that going on that podcast changed the election?
Partly, absolutely. Because it shows that for all he is a man, whether you want to call him, whether you want to say he's a liar, he's someone who just is good on camera and good at talking.
Yeah.
It shows that he's willing to talk on a level outside of politician dialect. And politician dialect is very formal, very scripted.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a good approach for the American public.
Yeah.
And not even on Trump's side, but on Kamala's side, when she publicly denies like wanting to go on these other platforms such as podcasts, it shows that it's like
The only podcast she goes on is Call Her Daddy. Like, no offense to Alex Cooper, but like that's a hugely sex positive show. Don't be texting on my podcast.
But it depends.
Shame
Doesn't
on
it
you.
show that like she doesn't have a confidence in like what she's...
Well, here's another thing too. So why I specifically voted for Trump was because of the assassination attempt. That's where I'm like, this dude is doing something right that they're literally trying to kill him. Now, you can ask the question, so who's trying to kill Trump? Is it the Democrats? Is it, freaking the Iranians or whatever? I honestly believe the way, I mean, dude, should I pull up the video where Biden literally goes, oh, all of Trump's supporters are garbage? Straight up said that. Do you want me to pull that up?
Pull up the one where he says, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black."
Well, there's that too. Also,
Trump had
he
said,
doesn't know
if
it's-
Trump had said that, yeah, but if Trump had said that, that'd be the news headline for like a month. And he said it, and it wasn't even a headline. Like, it's just funny. I think that's part of why people are fed up about the media.
Biden also said this word for word too, where he goes, "Oh, if it was back in the day, I'd take him out behind the gym and beat his ass."
Yeah, that's fine. Trump said worse.
Well, so that's where it's like you can't be, oh, Biden said this or he did this. It's like, well, dude, Trump. It's like it's hard to defend him. And I was talking with one of my family members. I was like, really questioning our relationship because of who I voted for. And at the point where not being a Trumper, I'm like, yeah, dude, like I'm tired of defending some of this stuff. Like, once again, do I think even I wanted to talk about January 6th? Maybe we have time. We're about an hour in now. So, yeah. So here's another thing, Shane. I think I sent this to the group chat? This was one of the first things we actually talked about on the first one, the first podcast we did. That the audio isn't great. This is Jill, or really quickly.
Yeah, wasn't it good before? No, it's fine.
It's because it's so finicky. This is Jill Biden, like saying, she's like mocking Kamal when it comes to a big part of Kamal's campaign. When she started out, it's like, it's just the joy of the Democratic Party and the joy of America. And Jill Biden here is mocks Kamal. Here we go. Son of a gun. Hold on, let me try to. Man, sorry, I don't know what's going on with this audio specifically. But, yeah. I basically just, she says what I just mentioned. It was actually interesting. When I was working for Events United, Joe, did you know this? When I was working with Joel's company, I did like a 3-day
Sabbatical.
sabbatical where I actually got paid for them, and I was just like a lug for all the equipment. And we were in Pennsylvania, and it was a Women for Jill Biden.
You were a roadie.
Yeah, essentially. And I was like, dude, I was like 50 feet from Jill Biden, but I didn't even, at the time, I didn't even know politics. I'm like, oh wow, this could be the first lady at the time, because this was a while ago. A couple other things before we move on. Did you hear about this? So the main reason why I voted for Trump was because of the assassination attempt, and once again, kind of just like I always said. But a reason why I didn't vote for Kamala specifically is because she would only be doing, like, she didn't do like any interviews for the longest amount of time. And when she would have these ones like CNN or whatever, they would be like 20-minute segments, 12-minute segments. Think about the segment where, I don't know if it was ABC or when her and Walls go on and they're talking about like white man tacos. Do you remember that?
No.
No.
Do you really don't remember that? Okay, I'll have to. Well, I'll find out what. I'll find out what. Did my? Oh, I accidentally muted myself. Shit.
How long?
Okay, I'm
have
back.
been going on?
No, but to that note, honestly, I don't know how to feel about the Bidens in general, because they do give mixed feelings. Like they're like your ex-girlfriend who texts you on a Friday night and says, "You up?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't know their agenda. Joe, what do you think? Because like,
they've been corrupt for forever. They've been laundering money out of the Ukraine for years. They impeached Trump for
Joe,
something that Joe Biden did as vice president
Ben, the
2
audio-
years before.
Yeah, I know.
Joe Biden
it's
did it.
this specific reason. Yeah. So.
No, they're just a typical corrupt politician that served enough time and did enough favors that the party decided, hey, we're going to run you as president. Like, you don't just get to run for president. You have to earn that privilege in your party.
And another interesting thing is, I just found this out recently. Is like, Biden wasn't wealthy, especially as a senator. Like,
Yeah.
he was like he was the Delaware senator, right? And he had to live in the Washington D.C. and Delaware while he was a senator, because you go to like the Congress meetings or whatever. But he, at one point, he was like commuting because he didn't have.
When was this?
This was early in his career, but still when he was a senator. Because you would think, right? You'd be like, oh, a senator makes great money, but he was making like $70K a year.
Wow.
And
What does the average person make in Congress?
what would you say, Joe?
I have no idea. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but it just shows.
Plus all
like,
the insider trading
but
shit.
my point with that is like everything revolves around money. So if you get a big, big campaign fund, which Trump had, let's be honest, you're gonna get above the playing field.
This is a from
Or you gotta get donor.
And they just upped that too.
the compensation for most senators, representative delegates, and the resident commissioner from Puerto Rico is.
But I just saw a thing. This was like in the
74K.
70s and 80s when
Yeah.
Biden was making 70K. But he
Look that up. How much is 70K in the 1980s? In 1985, how much is $70,000 in 1985?
In 85?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, if we're going with the most conservative estimate, because if it was the 70s, it'd be more. Yeah, they're making
Wow.
200 grand. He can't live on 200 grand a year. That's not considered. As a politician, yeah, but like,
I think because he had his he has a bunch of kids, right? That he was paying for.
so I think is the most tragic part of Joe Biden's life is when his family died in a car crash. When he
Yeah,
was
his
first
son
running for
Bo,
president.
right?
Bo and his first wife. No, Bo died. No, Bo killed himself. I think. I could be
Did he?
wrong. I believe.
No, I thought Bo died in the accident.
No, this was his first wife and his first kids.
Oh, okay.
No, they were both children at the time.
Here's one other thing I wanted to mention. So,
You can look that up if you want to be correct about it, because it is.
I suppose that could be,
Are you going on to the Zuckerberg thing?
yeah.
Because I have a good follow up on that. Because he just went on Rogan.
Go ahead, go for it, Sharon.
Just like
Now?
Joe Biden crash, and then just. I just want to.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to be wrong about it because I think that's the most sympathetic part of.
All 4 occupants were taken to Wilmington.
Oh, maybe it was Bo.
Naomi. Bo and Hunter were treated for non-life threatening injuries. Is Bo alive today?
No, you're right. So they had the accident and then
Click on the
Bo
on the
killed
Wikipedia.
himself.
They should
Oh,
all
Bo
have.
committed suicide?
They should all
Yeah,
have
I'm
their
pretty
own
sure.
Wikipedia pages. Just click on that. You can play Wikipedia from.
Bo doesn't have Wikipedia.
Well, it wouldn't be there. It'd be the first instance they mentioned them.
Yeah, up is right there, man.
sorry, where?
At the top. Bo and Hunter.
Yeah, he was Attorney General of Delaware for a while.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that.
Illness.
So he's Hunter's blood brother. Same mom,
He served
right?
in Kosovo, really?
Wow.
Wow. I guess he died of brain cancer. I didn't know that.
Okay, well, I apologize, guys, for missing.
Burn pits. Yeah, that's. So real quick, talking
Yeah.
about Bush Senior. The burn pits in Iraq killed a lot of people. Your brain cancer isn't
Can
service
you
related.
click on burn pits? So I can get a refresher.
They still do them.
This
They still do them.
Burn pit is an area of United States military base in which waste is disposed of by burning. According to the United States Army Field Manual, there are 4 other ways outside of burn piles to dispose of non-hazardous solid waste: incinerators, burial, landfills, and what does that say? Tactical burial?
Yeah. Well, just go down to use in Afghanistan. So during the Gulf War, they were in Afghanistan. You just
But why were those killing people? The chemical byproduct?
Yeah, so active duty personnel reported respiratory difficulties and headaches in some cases, while some veterans made disability claims based on because they're burning everything. It's just like plastics, tires, rubber. It's just inhaling.
Oh, so if you look at it this way, George Bush killed Biden's son.
George Bush Senior.
George Bush Sr.
Yeah, but see, that's another part where is Bush really responsible for burn pits? Like, that was a decision made by the Army that Bush couldn't change, but he didn't because it wasn't brought to his attention probably until it was. Anyways, and what else are you gonna do? You have to dispose of this shit in the middle of the desert. What are you gonna do? You gotta burn it,
Yeah.
and someone's gonna throw it in there. It's just
Why was the son of a well-known senator throwing in the burn pit?
well, it might not have been him throwing in, but depending on how the wind blows, if it's close to a base, you're gonna have everyone on the base affected by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bo, get down there. Start tossing the tires in there.
Come on, Bo.
Inhale it, buddy. Who cares?
Sniff, sniff.
Yeah, like it's cocaine.
Yeah, jeez. I mean,
Well,
Biden would
one
know.
of the 400
Biden would
tons
know
of
a thing or
waste
two
was
about
just
sniffing,
burnt.
right?
Well, Hunter Biden knows a thing
Using
about
burn pits
too
too.
about crack.
I'm gonna clip that.
Yeah, right here. According to Leo Russell Keith, a military contractor stationed at Baghdad, who testified as a Senate hearing in 2009, ash was everywhere, including on beds and clothes. He described that the thick black smoke was present even in the barracks where it permanently stained sheets. One soldier described the smoke as like San Francisco fog. Another called it pollen dust.
Jeez.
and they were, allegedly a temporary measure, but they ended up burning over 400 tons of waste was disposed using burn pits daily.
Yeah.
Daily. And so you breathe that in every day, and you're going to get carcinogens in your blood and your brain and all that shit.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, but it's the military, so you signed your body and your mind and everything over to the U.S. military.
Yeah, you almost went into the military.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it almost. I considered it.
So,
I know Ben considered it.
yeah, I thought
We all
I
consider
wanted to go into the Green Berets. Tell that to my niece.
I'll tell that to your niece when you have one.
So, this is what the last
Oh
thing.
yeah, can I get us started with Zuckerberg?
Please do,
So
sir.
did you guys see he went on Rogan? And
I listened to the whole thing.
okay, and
Excuse me.
him coming around saying that
Money.
he was money is the one word answer, but him saying he was coerced into censoring all these people on the Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's plenty of billionaires who go against what the government tell them to do. Like Elon Musk is an example. He bought Twitter because he was sick of censorship.
Where would the world be if you
Yeah,
hadn't
but
bought
to-
Twitter?
No, but that's oops.
Yeah, but
Shane, that was
No, don't cut me off. So oops.
But to be fair,
Oops.
Musk picked another side of the political aisle. It wasn't like Musk was independent from politics. He attached himself to someone he thought he was going to win. Zuckerberg censored people because the prominent government party said, "Listen, we're going to indict you and sue you," because he already had a Congress here.
And that's
if you
what
don't
I'm
do what we
saying
say.
is that's weak.
And now
And
he's
now
doing
you
it the
can't-
other way around because he's worried Trump's going to do the same thing to him.
Yeah, and that's weak, bro.
Yeah, but that's how people make money. They don't care about morals. They don't have consistent morals. They
But
just
when
have
you
consistent
switch,
money
when
making
you
policies.
flip like a pancake like that.
You flip flop.
Yeah, just whoever, because he's trying to look good for when Trump becomes president again.
But Joe, you have to understand this. Zuckerberg was not making any statements when he was bought by the other party.
No, he was
He
denying exactly
he was
what he was
he was
accused of.
censoring everyone on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's why no one uses Facebook anymore. And so him coming back on and saying, "Oh, I was forced to do it." No, you weren't forced to do it. You wanted to keep your legacy and you wanted to keep making money.
Well, I don't know how he's like, oh, well, that wasn't involved with me directly. It was like other people in the company. It's like,
No,
what?
I don't respect that. I really
Me
don't.
neither.
I don't respect that. And a lot of people are coming out like giving him leeway. It's like, why? He's a free-willed man, and he chose to do what he did. You can't just sweep that aside.
Yeah.
Like, he's a billionaire. He would still be a billionaire if he didn't do that. If he didn't censor Facebook.
Also, why is he looking like a freaking like college frat boy? You know how he's got like the frizzed hair now, and he's wearing a chain when he went on Rogan.
Dude,
He's like, I do.
I do jujitsu.
He's a lizard.
Uh,
Hello, fellow human being. I have haircut.
yeah. Yeah. Well.
Give me your data, and I will sell it to advertisers for
Speaking of advertisers,
money.
TikTok is gone.
Yeah.
Joe just showed me.
Well, okay. So they said that this is actually the most up to date thing we've talked about. They said they're planning to go dark, and I haven't read the articles. So I don't know what the that means. So yeah, their ban officially goes into place on Sunday, January 19th, and Trump gets inaugurated January 20th. So the big question is, because Biden says he's not going to enforce it, and if Trump decides either to extend the deadline to see if this company will sell to someone else, or will Trump just do the egalitarian thing and just say, well, I'm not going to enforce the ban, and so even though on the books, because the Supreme Court said it wasn't a
he
binding
gave didn't he give a very
well, this was Trump's idea to begin with.
it was his idea, but they asked him in the speech, and someone was like, are you gonna facilitate it was an election answer. He's like, are you gonna facilitate the TikTok ban? And he's like, we're gonna look into it.
Exactly.
I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, and what does that even mean? Does that mean you can't download it from the app stores, or does that mean it's removed from everyone's device?
It'll be on your phone, but it won't work because none of the service providers that operate in the U.S. will be allowed will be legally allowed to support it. So the app won't be removed for your phone. So if you go to another country, say you go to Canada, you'll be able to use it, or you go to like Germany, or a country that hasn't banned it. The ISPs and the app software supporters on your phone won't support it. So it might work for a little while. My guess is that, well, I haven't read the thing that they say they're going dark. So unless TikTok does something intentionally to block it from everyone everywhere to make a point, you most likely will be able to use it until the service providers get worried legally enough to stop supporting it on your phone. So you just will, like, you won't be able to connect to it.
And the main thing with that,
But you could use a
is the
VPN and
Chinese
connect to
stealing data.
Yeah, because every company in China is legally responsible to the CCP Central Party. So, yeah, it's stealing data from American citizens. But that's ironic because what's the new app, Red Card or whatever, that people are going to?
Oh,
That's
I don't know
worse
much about
Chinese app.
Yeah, I don't know. So, cool. So that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to talk about the election. I wanted to move on maybe some of the wars going on. Yeah, so we just found out that Hamas and Hamas has come to a ceasefire with Israel. What are your guys' thoughts on going into it?
And it's interesting because Israel hasn't fully accepted the ceasefire at this point. So I still think they're deliberating with negotiations. Because, like I was saying earlier, Ben, there's stages to this ceasefire. Like the first one is obviously they stop shooting each other and the aerial raids. And then the second stage is releasing hostages. And I think some of these Hamas Palestinian hostages are like very high profile. I don't think Israel wants to let them go.
Yeah.
But also, Hamas has a bunch of Israel hostages, and if you saw that Trump speech, he's like, he said something where he's like, all hell's gonna break loose if they don't release the Israel hostages. And I think this war is obviously never gonna get solved. Like, we could talk about this all day. It's never gonna get solved. They're always gonna be combating against each other. Is this a step in the right direction? I don't know. I don't think so. It may calm things down for a couple months. It's one of those things where it's up to the world leaders. And Joe, me and Ben were talking about this. Netanyahu's like a very conservative guy for Israel, right? He's like, the eradication of Hamas is the only way to solve this conflict.
Yeah, most Israelis would agree with that. So no one's ever lost money betting against peace in Israel.
I looked this up too. Hamas is the only terrorist organization that has sympathizers all around the world.
Well, because they represent a country that they're the elected party of the Palestinian country that claims itself a country. So if you're going to represent, it's like, well, I don't think that's true anymore because the Taliban are the official government of Afghanistan and they're recognized by at least a few countries around the world because Afghanistan is a real country and the governing party of Afghanistan is the Taliban. But anyways,
which is nuts, dude.
But that's how the Middle East works. Well, why the be in the Middle East to begin with?
Exactly.
I think one of the most interesting things to talk about how we're so concerned about the war in the Middle East is, well, one, we send a lot of money to Israel and then a lot of money to Palestine too.
Yeah.
It's big picture very interesting to think that the United States, as a country halfway around the world, influences political ideologies and political policy in countries that aren't us. Right?
Yeah.
So that started. So it's funny because Israel and Palestine in the middle, Israel and the Arab world are kind of where the United States' ability to influence international policy started. So the Suez Crisis during I think it was the Yom Kippur, maybe the 7-Day War. Anyways, Israel invaded Egypt again. Well, the other way around. The Middle East invaded Israel, and Israel kicked their ass again. It was probably the 7-Day War. Anyway, so Israel took over the Suez Canal, and Egypt was, there's this whole threat over what to do with the Suez Canal. At the time, this was the 60s, the two former big powers in the world were UK and France, and they both had the idea that they were backing Israel and trying to take back the Suez Canal from Egypt, right? The United States and the Soviet Union showed up and said, listen, you guys off. We're in charge here. We're going to let this be an independent situation. Egypt's going to retain control of this. So actually, Israel can control the Sinai Peninsula, but Egypt got back the Suez Canal against the wishes of the UK and France. And so that was the beginning of the United States and Russia being able to dictate international policy, right?
Right.
No one had to listen, but the threat of the United States sanctions and the power the United States and Russia held to say, listen, if you don't do what we want, we're going to make life difficult for you as a whole country, has been something since about 50s, 60s that we've been able to hold up
beginning
to
of
now.
Cold War.
So
Yeah.
listen, think about it. Hamas invaded
Wasn't
Israel,
sick really
and
quickly?
Israel responded with an invasion. We're the ones that are in charge of what Israel and Palestine are going to do with their own countries. Like, that's kind of crazy to think that we have that much influence. And so that's why it's important that a president have a policy about this.
Well, wasn't there a big thing where when Obama was president, where he wanted to reestablish the boundary lines from that happened like '67?
They
Was that the
talk
year?
about. I'm sure that happened. I don't recall that specifically.
Well,
but, that's
Netanyahu
always
like
been
was
one of
not.
the-
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Israel, since those boundaries, they've taken over the Golan Heights and the West Bank. Well, until they gave the West Bank back. But
And they still want. Did you see the terms of the condition? They still want minimal occupation in the Gaza Strip.
I never understood
Yeah, that's
why.
the thing. Israel is just like you. Unless you meet our terms, there's nothing. We will never.
It's one of those eternal
subside
conflicts.
or-
That it's not just a political ideology; it's a religious ideology, which is why it's kind of foreign to a lot of people now because they don't see it through that; they see it through a political lens. Where it's
Yeah,
not
Joe,
really a
I was
political thing.
just going back to this. Think about it as us Americans who wouldn't be exposed to that. It's like, okay, I'm a citizen of this country, and then these other people are like, oh, that's not a real country. That's our country. So I was trying to like think about this conflict because it's hard for us to think about.
Kudos
this,
to you. Yeah, we don't have
as
context.
white Americans, but it's like it's one of those things that it's going to go on for our lifetime. It's going to go on for many lifetimes beyond that, and.
But it's not just that they don't like. Israel gave the Gaza Strip to Palestine in 2005. They're like, listen, you can have it. Have elections. We're not going to govern there anymore, even though they claim that territory. They're like, listen, you can have these parts of our country and have your own country. We're just not going to recognize you, and we're going to force our allies to not recognize you. So it's not like Israel has been in perpetual war with these people. And so, my biggest opinion about this, right, and this is, you claim genocide. Israel might be committing.
Well, hold on a second.
definition.
The whole genocide thing is 2/3 of the Palestinian body count are women and children.
Is that now? I'm not saying I don't have an opinion either way because I don't have enough research on this. But is that because Israel is purposely targeting civilian populations at the expense of a military objective, or is there? Well, I guess it's three parts. Is there military objective to target these civilian areas because there's military objects in that area? And if that's true, right, if it's that second thing, if Israel is targeting civilian areas on purpose, is that because they're malevolent and they want to kill Palestinian civilians, or is that because the PLA and the Palestinian Authority operates using human shields? And so in order to conduct a military operation against Hamas, you would have to unfortunately operate in a civilian area. I don't know. I'm not saying it's one thing or the other, but I'm saying that it's most likely the second thing, where you have probably a mix of both. The Israelis don't really give a about Palestinian civilians, but Palestinian military units are using civilians as human shields, so it's inevitable. Like, Israel, I think, is doing some stuff to avoid civilian casualties, but as it goes on, you can't operate a war without... That's the criticism of Obama, right? That he killed all these civilians with drone strikes, but he didn't have to, because the war wasn't so intense that these strikes were warranted. You were targeting a wedding to kill one guy, but you end up killing 30 children and women to kill this one guy because that's where you knew he was going to be, at a wedding. And he wasn't, I think it's wrong, and I think that that's what a lot of people criticize Israel over, is like, you have the upper hand now. You were attacked and your civilians died because the Palestinians were targeting civilians because it's a terrorist organization. People don't claim that 9/11 was a military operation, right? By the Taliban.
Yeah.
And the attack by the PLA wasn't a military operation against Israel. It was a terrorist attack and they killed whoever they wanted, and they captured a bunch of people and kept them. So what's the appropriate response for Israel? Do they get to kill civilians? Well, even if it's right, you should turn the other cheek and you should be more civilized, because that's what makes you a better person, is that you don't attack civilians without having to.
Apparently,
But it's war. War is hell. Like World War II, they bombed entire cities and they didn't care about civilian deaths, even though they won them. It was,
so political.
Can I add one thing then, Ben, I'll let you jump in. I think and I'm obviously not an expert on it, but the Palestine,
none of us are. I guess
the
I should-
Hamas Israel war, it seems like neither side wants to be the bigger man in terms of like conducting a safe military operation. You know, like even Israel, like they're displacing. Think of the amount of people who have no connection to Hamas. They're displacing these families from their homes.
Well, I
they're,
think-
they're killing them. They're being left in the rubble.
Jeez, you're having to go to pee all the time, huh? 3 times.
But,
Drink.
I think
I'm the only one here who's drinking.
Joe, I'm drinking more than you. So I think it's a thing of
Keep going.
neither group wants to be the more morally correct.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
this situation, because I think Israel, the way they're conducting the war is like very like strategic, you know, operational. Like we have to attack these targets, whatever.
Well,
the
Israel
call-
has one of the best militaries in the world
very
and the
good,
best
very
intelligence.
good, yes, very good intelligence. Like we attack these targets, and it's seeming more and more like they're not convicted of the other side of that. You know, the other outcomes of killing, you know, harmless Palestinian families, and that's the big outrage you see, right, with people these days with this war. And obviously, I don't have stats to back that up fully, but
I know that the stat of 2/3 are women and children of the dead Palestinians. That's absolutely true.
yeah.
So, well, here's another thing. Like, well, don't you think to a certain degree, like Trump is definitely like, he's definitely allied with Netanyahu. So, do you think to a certain degree, Netanyahu's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get whatever. Shane, what I was trying to say is that you really don't think Netanyahu's going to take liberty to do whatever he wants, because he's definitely like a far right leader, man, and you don't think that, oh well, because I have Trump now in my back pocket, as he would say himself, that I can just do whatever I want and America has to support us. Because even like Netanyahu goes back to like Clinton, dude.
Yes and no. I don't know the specifics of Netanyahu, but I do think I saw like a couple reports like he is beloved by the far right nationalists of Israel. Like he's the Zionists. He's very loved, and like he's a guy. I don't want to fully say this, but I think he's a guy that won't. He's seen enough of terrorist groups in Palestine that he won't tolerate it anymore. And who's to say Joe, give me another beer. Who's to say his approach is like fully correct? We can't say that.
His approach is a logical conclusion to the actions of Palestine towards Israel, and it depends on what side you agree with originally. Because if you're a Palestinian supporter, you agree that Israel is an occupying power of their country. And if you support Israel to begin with, you believe that the Palestinians are an occupying part of Israel's country. But both of them, usually throughout history, the Palestinians and the Arab world are the ones that initiate the wars. Okay? Well, so you can argue that the 7-Day War, Israel struck first, but there are a lot of... You took my beer. There's a lot of evidence to say that the Arab world was going to attack them anyways, and so a preemptive strike, as cliche as that sounds, was actually the correct idea. With this, they didn't even preemptive strike. The Palestinians attacked them. There was peace, and then the Palestinians attacked, and then Israel responded. And now the question shouldn't be, is Israel allowed to? It's how much they're allowed to do, and when should the ceasefire happen? And is peace going to promote peace in the future? Maybe, but who's to say that in 20 years the Palestinians don't try the same thing again?
So here's another interesting thing too, is that
And so does that warrant Israel allowing them to eradicate the Palestinians? I don't think so.
I mean, Pete Hegseth just said himself when he was was being like grilled at Capitol Hill, because he has all this. He has all these skeletons in his closet for being like a serial cheater, like all these other stuff. Ooh, what's my percentage at?
You're good.
1/3.
So
Paul Pierce.
So, yeah, I just think that's interesting. Like, once again, none of us are experts on the Israel Hamas war, but it's definitely something that is. I think you just said it best, Shane, when you were doing your first little mini monologue about it, where it's like, this kind of is what it is. Like, is it ever going to be resolved, or are people ever going to be able to set their egos aside? And another thing, I found this out through Sean Ryan. So, October 7th was directly related to Afghanistan in the way of when George Bush initiated Enduring Freedom, and we went into Afghanistan. It was October 7th, 2000. What was the year?
2003.
Yeah. So, so a couple other things too. I found this out through Sean Ryan is that this is via Sarah Adams, who was one of the CIA operatives that helped locate Bin Laden, so everyone else could go and they found him in Pakistan.
Nah, they knew where he was the whole time.
No, they didn't.
Nah, they did. They knew what he
What are you
escaped.
talking about?
He escaped after. He
Joe,
escaped
watch some
after.
movies. Zero Dark 30.
Oh, yeah, a movie's really so.
Why?
Most of
Watch
Al
Zero-
Qaeda.
Guys,
most of Al Qaeda
get farther
escaped.
away from the mic, okay?
Most of Al
When it
Qaeda.
does this, it's clipping. So
Most
be
of
like
Al
this.
Qaeda escaped Afghanistan during Google. Pull it up. Give me a Google.
Hold on. What do you-
Joe. How did they find him? They tracked down his courier.
Yeah, but they knew that
they
years
had
ahead
no
of the time.
connection before that.
But you- but
She
Google,
was
give me Google,
instrumental.
give me Google. Google, and this is going to sound like a comic book. The airlift of evil.
So you're saying
Okay, the Kunduz airlift. Okay, just give me the overall of that. Right, the evacuation of Pakistan of hundreds of top
dude,
commanders
you're
and
clipping the
members
mic, bro, a little
of
bit.
the Taliban and Al Qaeda. Right.
Al Qaeda.
When did this happen? Al Qaeda. When did this happen? This happened in November 2001.
Yeah.
Right. In November 2001.
Sorry, guys. What are you doing?
Who's to say they were there to try to catch Osama bin Laden, right? And he got away on this airlift by the Pakistani military.
Yeah.
Where's the Pakistani military going to go? Pakistan. So you're really telling me that they were so stupid enough to believe that he wasn't in Pakistan, so we're going to continue this war in Afghanistan? The only reason we didn't bother at Pakistan was one, because they were our allies.
We're not at war with them.
And two, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, so that makes political
They do, actually.
that makes political interaction with a nuclear country
But-
kind of
but
hard,
Joe,
because you
this
can't
is-
invade Pakistan. You can't do it because they'll nuke you.
Yeah. Let Shane.
Joe, but that's a good point, but that's broad. Even if they knew he was in Pakistan, Pakistan is a relatively large country.
Yeah.
He was in like a country club town of Pakistan, hiding in like a nice compound with multiple families. We didn't know exactly where he was. We knew his accomplices. It took us a long time to find his accomplices, because he didn't keep many people close to him. Ben's watching his tapes that he was doing from his
The hard
compound.
drive.
The hard drive, and
Yeah.
he was connected still with his groups, but
Right, but he couldn't directly contact them. He couldn't
he
directly.
did it through his courier.
Yeah.
I forget his courier's name, but
Oh yeah. What's the guy's name?
um,
What's up, Joe? What were
but
you-
Joe, all I'm saying is they interrogated a lot of Al Qaeda leaders and Taliban leaders to try and locate him. And how long did it take? What was the official timeline? Because it was a long time. It was a long time.
It had to
Remember,
be a year.
Obama would give reports, or not? Was it Obama?
Well, Obama gave the confirming
He gave the
statement.
confirm, but even was it Bush administration where we were getting reports?
Well, this is my point. I'm not saying they knew where he was immediately after this, but they knew he was in Pakistan, and they spent the next 10 years saying he wasn't in Pakistan. They were saying he was in Afghanistan, hiding in a cave somewhere, and that's why we're at war with Afghanistan, is we're still trying to find Osama
And
bin
that
Laden.
was what they gave to the public.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that the truth is different from what the narrative was. And so just because we have the hindsight doesn't mean that they lied about it for 20 years.
Why would
So they knew he was in Pakistan. They continued a war in Afghanistan and try
and
to
they
oust-
just around? Like I don't.
Well, they didn't want
No,
to give
because
it
there's
to
so
the
much
media.
money. Because if you end the war, all these lobbyists lose money because they can't sell their war to you anymore. You have Lockheed Martin and Boeing. And I'm not saying that there wasn't a reason to be in Afghanistan. The Taliban was still a problem. With hindsight, they're still there. who we gave the country back to.
Well, tell me this, bro. Do you know the whole?
So if we, in hindsight, if we really knew
Holy
he was in
cow, I
Pakistan,
can't
Say,
thought in.
when he does that, say, ooh.
how long did Obama know that he was in? You know, Obama, I feel like waited for the right political time to say, listen, we know where he is. We've known him for 3 years now, but we're not going to go kill him because if we kill him now, it'll accelerate the timeline for pulling out of Afghanistan, and I don't want to pull out of Afghanistan, so I'm going to wait until I need to kill Osama bin Laden.
Well, one of the founders. Well, it's so interesting because you look at the founder of ISIS, right? One of the founders of ISIS, al-Sakari. They just drone striked him like this once they found him. But I guess bin Laden was a much more, HVT. So, but are you aware of the whole thing where we send $40 to $87 million a week to Afghanistan or to the Taliban?
Yeah, it's part of our
That's
pullout negotiation.
freaking crazy to me. Like, can you guys please describe it to me? Like, what was the whole thing where it's like the United States does not negotiate with terrorists?
That was a lesson learned from the British learned that lesson, and I can't remember when it was, but the idea was that if you negotiate with terrorists, they're not going to agree to the terms that you agree to, so you might as well be a hard stance.
Did it begin with Libya?
No, it was before that. It was in Africa, I think so.
Oh, the World War II campaign?
No, with the collapse of, it might have been the Congo. Go to that Wikipedia page, that first result.
How accurate is Wikipedia?
It doesn't matter how accurate they are, but they'll point you in the right direction. Like, you're reading an article from one website, but Wikipedia, if they cite you, will at least give you, however there have been, Iran-Contra, that's a whole thing. Go down.
Go down. Other.
Go up, go to the
January 15, ISIL, no. No, British government right here. Secret Irish Republican Army, no.
top. Go to the top, see what it says. I just want to read the up to the very beginning. Go click on hostage crisis. Click on hostage crises. And go down. Down, keep going. Stop. Keep going.
That's within the United States.
Go down.
It started before the U.S.
Maybe right here. Hold on.
The Munich massacre. That's the movie.
Oh, Nixon administration. I think that's what I said. I think that's what I was trying to go for. That's the international term, not domestic kidnappers, foreign governments. Evidence suggests this policy has reduced the number of Americans who survive kidnapping. Yeah, I think it might have been the Munich one because it says it's a policy since the Nixon administration. Basically, the United Kingdom has a similar policy. It's mostly because you're incentivizing it, and so it's a no-win situation that if you negotiate with terrorists, well, more people are going to kidnap people, but if you don't, then the people who get kidnapped are going to die.
Yep.
Maybe.
Which happened to me.
Really, really quick, the really interesting side note is that, like, the whole Iranian hostage situation is not exactly similar, but it's kind of similar to the Israeli hostage situation because you have a president who didn't do anything for 4 years, and then the incumbent president, before he's even elected, says, "Listen, I'm gonna f you guys up if you don't let these people out."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, on Inauguration Day in 1980, the Iranian hostages get all let go. And a couple days before Trump takes office, all of the Palestinian hostages are agreed to let go. It's just kind of interesting that you have the same parallel, and a lot of people compared Joe Biden to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you see one reporter asked Biden, they're like, who can take credit for the ceasefire and the confirmation of the deal? And Biden turns around and he's like, "Is that a joke?" And then he did his blank stare, which is patented at this point, and then he walked away. And it's like, no, it's not a joke, Biden, because we know you have certain pressures before leaving the office and transitioning to Trump, and whether you're going to comply with those things. He does seem like he's willing to like cooperate with the transition period, but at the same time, it's like if he didn't have the pressure of leaving office, would this deal have been done?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. That doesn't. I don't know how else you are supposed to look at that. So yeah. So a couple more random topics, and then we'll
I would skip that first one. That first one, like I said, turned out to be nothing. Like it's kind of a dead story now.
What?
Well, they said they're going to
The
release
drones in
details.
Jersey. What do you mean? I think that's the
They're
opposite.
going to release details.
It's Occam's razor.
Do you think it's it's a psyop?
No, it's Occam's razor. There was probably some sort of military involvement of drones for one reason or another for a couple days, and then once it became a news story, because it was the same thing that happened in Colorado 5 years ago, right? There were a bunch of drones, and everyone was like, "Oh, drones, ooh!" And then, well, if you live, say there was say New Hampshire, right? There was a drone thing in New Hampshire. I own a drone.
Yeah.
If everyone was on the news on CNN saying, "Ooh, drones," I'd fly my drone in New Hampshire. I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna make it spooky." And I think that most of the stuff in New Jersey is Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is the right explanation, and that is that there are probably military drones that were running one operation or another, and then once it became news, everyone who owns a drone in New Jersey decided to fly their drone to be funny. And no, it's Occam's.
How do you spell that?
I don't know. A should correct you. I'm surprised that didn't correct you. Oh, it's O. Yeah.
Okay, all right, but I'm like, why is the FBI being so?
Because, like I said, I'm sure they had an operation to begin with that required an increased number of drones that people picked up on, and then it became a news story, and then whatever.
I don't know, man.
And then a bunch of people clicked on it because it was an interesting news story, and so the news kept reporting about it because the news isn't news. The news is a representation of the public's interest in news, right? So if you release a story, Meta CEO admits the Biden-Harris administration pressured company to censor Americans, and only 5% of people who see that click on it, it's not going to be a headline next week. But if 80% of people who see UFOs in New Jersey are going to click on it, then you're going to keep reporting on the UFOs in New Jersey.
But some of these like drones have been reported as like almost as big as a small car.
Well, yeah, these drones are huge. You look at some of these drones in Ukraine, or some of these drones, like they're big.
I'm just saying,
And,
it's
but,
like,
but see, the thing is, it's hard to judge size when you have no reference point. If you see something in the sky,
yeah,
who's to say it's not 5,000 feet or it's only 50 feet above you? Like, yeah, it's a little bit weird, but like I said, the same thing happened in Colorado 5 years ago, and it turned out to be nothing. And in New Jersey, I think it's just a kind of a little mass hysteria where people get interested in it, and then all of a sudden, well, everyone owns drones, so I'm going to fly my drone because it's on the news and people. There was probably a reason. Maybe they were looking for that guy who assassinated that CEO. Maybe they thought he was there, and that started it. Or maybe they lost a fugitive or something that they were looking for, and then it just cycled as a news story. But now I don't see any headlines about it. It's been about a week since you've heard anything about it, at least, right? You know?
it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm like, why can't they just be open about what's going on?
Because then someone reads that and then they're not interested anymore. It's mundane and boring.
I feel like that's a bad response though, because when it comes to
It's about money, not about good responses. It's about what makes these news networks the most money. Who clicks on the most pages so that they can sell ad space on their website and make the most money? UFOs in New Jersey sells more than drones are nothing. Boring information.
I don't get it. Like we had times where we shot down the Chinese balloon, right? That was a big thing for a little bit while.
Yeah, that was
Why
stupid.
not
Why
shoot
did the
down?
Chinese use
It's
a
a
balloon to
weather.
begin with? Why are the Chinese
I
using
know,
a balloon?
why-
They have satellites. We don't need a balloon to spy on
I'm
shit.
just saying, like, why did we shoot it down? But if it was just a weather satellite,
Because it probably was Chinese, and they probably were using it to spy.
I
in
mean,
a
it was pretty
traditional
confirmed
sense.
that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but my question is not more of why big deal, Chinese spy balloon. Why were they doing it? Why can't they use satellites? Is it because their satellites don't work?
I don't. Maybe they're trying to be intentional to.
Yeah, they're just
to
trying
let
to. I don't
people
know.
like,
I don't know.
oh, hey,
I think honestly, I think it because the Chinese government, like Xi Jinping, is the one guy in charge of everything. Like he doesn't have a cabinet that he listens to. Someone somewhere thought it'd be a good idea to send a balloon over here and didn't tell his boss, or his boss didn't tell his boss, and someone decided to do it, and then it turns out this is a stupid idea, and someone got executed for it. They're like, oh, we don't need satellites. We can spy on America. Like, okay, maybe they were like, well, what happens if we get in a war with America and they nuke our satellites? So an interesting point, right, that we can talk about the internet. We did this in the 50s, you detonate a nuclear warhead in space, you fry every satellite within like a million miles. So nothing works anymore. So all the GPS and all this stops working. And so maybe the Chinese were like, well, what if we detonate a nuke in space? Instead of nuking America, we nuke all their satellites. Well, all our satellites are now, so how do we get military information? Well, we have to send balloons over. So they tested how a balloon would work and strategy in data collection, and it worked all right, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a big, like, look at the war in Ukraine, right? The Russians don't have their own GPS system.
How?
Because GPS was the thing in the 90s and they weren't the Soviet Union anymore, so they just paid us for the right to use the GPS is like a hot, it's like jacuzzi. It means all satellites, but GPS is a specific American thing that we didn't even let civilians use until like the late 90s. It was a military technology. So you look at these fighters in Russia, right? Russian fighters in Ukraine, they have little Garmin handheld GPSs taped to their heads-up display, because the one that was integrated to their plane had a Russian tag to it, so they shut that off. So they can't use that GPS anymore. So they have to buy a Garmin off of Amazon that they don't know is a Russian Garmin, and they have to use that as a GPS because all their military technology used American global positioning systems. So if China nukes our GPS, our military is kind of because they don't know where they are.
Isn't that the whole like conspiracy about like what if an EMP hits America?
That is far more likely
the
than
grid goes down.
Yeah. Oh, we'd be.
Well, I thought the whole reason like that makes sense to me, freaking civilian, would be to you just want to have America taken out from the inside. Like America's going to be like a Rome, like it's going to fall apart because of like we can't agree or we attack each other or someone gets killed and then everyone. Once again, I personally believe that there is a chance we could have had civil war if Trump got killed.
Yeah, maybe. People are not very. People are. It would take a lot.
I mean, what do you think about these drones, Shane? Have you given it any thought?
Yeah. It most likely. The most likely common answer is that they're gauging for nuclear waste because this drone expert who had went on one of the shows said that they can detect.
Louis Elizondo?
Yeah, they can detect radiation and radioactive material, but it also doesn't make sense to me because I'm like, the last time we disposed of a bunch of nukes was Reagan at the end of the Cold War, right? And some of those we lost. They're at the bottom of the ocean. We have no fucking clue where they are, right? So,
yeah.
So that could be a possibility. I'm like, why are we looking for them now? That part doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, I think the threat, the ongoing threat of Russia and other countries might cause us to like not increase that arsenal of nuclear weapons, but maybe like consolidate it and like. Obviously, I don't think there will be a nuclear war in our time, but like maybe just like, be prepared at the end of the day, and if part of that is like recovering nukes that we can't find, maybe. And also on this, didn't someone say, Ben, you were showing me something that Trump will, one of the first things he'll do once he's inaugurated is release what those drones were.
Yeah.
But
that's
who knows if that will happen.
Well, another thing too is Kash Patel, when if he gets in as the FBI director, is that he's also going to release the 9/11 files and the it was 9/11, the JFK assassination. What was the other thing?
No, that will never happen. The JFK.
That's what he's saying.
That's the most.
Oh, why are those files still sealed after 30
Yeah, that's the most
years?
tucked in case we've ever had in American history.
I'm running out of steam, but I kind of wanted to touch on January 6th. But do you think we guys have time?
Ask not what your country can do for
The
you,
mic is clipping.
but what you can do for your country.
That was actually good.
Don't listen to my brother. He wasn't drunk. That girl just died because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
That was good. That was very.
He's
good.
innocent.
Hold on, Joe. Can you do Who else?
I can't really
Joe,
use
do your
Trump.
best RFK.
No, he starts like this. He's like, I can't do it.
How does it? I
So
think
when we talk about environmental problems, we talk about the
I can't. Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't. You literally have to have a disease to do that. Shout out to him. He's a great guy.
I
My
am
mom
not
loves him.
here, Billy.
I would have voted for him.
I
if
did
you
not
ran for president.
have sexual relations with that
Hold
woman.
on. No, Joe, I have a request. Can you do Nixon, please? I'm not crooked.
the American people deserve to know if their president is a crook. And I'm here to say that I am no crook.
Wow.
I am not a crook. I'm also resigning. They can't impeach me if I'm resigned.
Oh.
Let's invade Vietnam. Let's invade Cambodia. The Laotian people deserve to be bombed.
Wow. Joe Fortier, everybody. You don't get him all the time.
CIA deserves to be defunded. No wonder why they
Joe,
shot
the
me.
mic is clipping, dude. Stop doing that.
Answer the question. Oh my God. Calm down, Dick. It's just the storm. It's just the wind. I don't owe money to the mafia. Who told you that?
For me, Shane, just punch him or.
Just so like.
You ever seen Marilyn Monroe naked? She's beautiful.
Oops. What is that from? I've heard
Don't
that.
tell Jackie about
Crystal,
Marilyn.
Yeah, that's what Crystal,
Oh yeah, is that with Callan?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. It's freaking hilarious.
Tell me about Obama and Barry Santoro, Joe.
I have no clue what the hell
Obama's
you're
real
talking
name
about.
is Barry, and they're like,
I thought the conspiracy
little
theory you were
bear-
going to talk
'cause-
about is how Michelle's a dude.
because Obama's like, hey, I'm Barry, I'm gonna be president one day, and they're like, oh, poor Barry, no, you're not. And then he becomes president, and he's like, I'm Barry, baby, deal with it.
Was that a thing Trump also just
Let
like
me
made
be
up, by the way,
clear.
that like
Don't
that he was
get
born in
twisted.
Kenya, or is that like true
I
What?
was born in
about Obama
Hawaii.
being born in Kenya?
Who being born in Kenya?
Obama
Things I
being
say
born
are
in
true.
Kenya.
Dude, Obama was made in a lab, no one knows.
My birth certificate is very real, and you shouldn't question where I was born. And I'm already president, so I could change the law if I wanted to. Speaking of this 2008 recession, the American people are going to recover from this recession, and I am going to lead them. And I don't support gay marriage until 2012.
Hillary Clinton
And
didn't
I-
either.
No,
Did
I
you see
do.
that?
I do.
Yeah.
And American people
Oh, let me be clear.
of America.
Don't get it twisted. I've always supported gay marriage.
Joe, I'm gonna have to edit this out, bro. I'm not keeping that in.
Let me be clear. You don't have to edit this out at all. I am Boo Boo. I'm Yogi Bear.
All right,
But Boo
cool,
Boo,
guys.
Take a basket.
Jeez. All right, this has been clearly the last Joe podcast on the left. Just
I don't want to be on these anymore. That's exactly why.
yeah. Well, we'll end on that note, guys. Bye bye.
No, we're not done. Oh, we're done.